bring in Frank Isola. He covers the NBA. He's one of the stars of Around the Horn. And you can listen to the starting lineup on Sirius XM. He's also the Nets studio host on Yes. Are you get off my lawn guy, Frank? Are you that old that you're one of those guys?
Yes.
Okay.
I thought you were going to, when men were men, you were going to say, when
No.
they would say, but Dan, isn't it funny though? All these teams now all have, performance coaches, the assistant performance coach, and everyone gets hurt more than they ever did. Everyone plays less than they ever did. I don't know. I guess you could hire me and I'll tell you, don't pitch or don't play. This way you won't get hurt. I'm a medical genius myself.
Help me understand what's going on with Zion Williamson, that he's been cleared to play 5-on-5. He's in the layup line doing 360s, but he can't play in a game? Why?
Yeah. Well, I don't know where the expression came, but if I have to hear the expression ramp up or ramping up one more time, I can't take it anymore. Just go out there and play. He did two things, which for me were regrettable. One, there's been a lot of talk about his conditioning. Why he would ever film a commercial, drinking a Mountain Dew, sitting on his couch playing video games is a little odd. And now you're not playing in games, but you're doing 360 dunks. Is there part of him that probably doesn't want to play because he's in line to get a rookie contract extension? That could be part of it. Maybe the Pelicans are thinking at this point, are we really going to beat the Phoenix Suns in the first round? Probably not. So what's the point? They had originally said, if you remember, he would be ready for opening night.
Yeah.
So here we are. That was in October. It's April. He still isn't playing. But I just think it looks bad. Why work out before the game and go through all this stuff? Just do it after a shoot around. Do your 360 dunks, work out. You should be out there playing, but he's not.
I don't understand it. I can understand trying to protect him, but if that's, I can't imagine a doctor goes, nope, you're not ready to play in a game, but you can go out there and do 360s. That's okay. I don't understand that logic. But do you think Zion is going to stay in New Orleans?
I would guess that he is. I'd be worried about paying him that much because, you look at the stat, how many games he's missed. And to your point about, get off my lawn, you go back to Michael Jordan, his second year with the Chicago Bulls. Remember, he had a foot injury.
Yeah, I brought that up recently.
They wanted him to shut it down. And remember in The Last Dance, he talked about going to Chapel Hill and he was playing 5-on-5. He came back and then they were load managing him. He was playing, then missing a game, and he wanted to get into the playoffs. He said, the heck with this. My minutes are going to go up. I'm going to play. They made the playoffs. And I think there is something to be said for that, playing in competitive games that matter. The Pelicans have wanted to get to this point. When they were in the bubble, they wanted to be in the play-in tournament. It didn't work out. They're here right now. One win gets you a playoff series against Phoenix. I think there's some value in that, but apparently they don't.
Do you think Frank Vogel wanted to get fired?
I think that he probably midway through the season, he was thinking, you know what, if you're going to make the move, how about doing it right now? That whole thing was a mess, and he was easy to blame. I still say they blamed Trevor Ariza first because remember, he got cut before they think the second to last game. So it really went Trevor Ariza, then Frank Vogel. And how about the comments by Russell Westbrook? I couldn't believe that he said that, where he brings up a story about, I left him a bottle of champagne, but I don't really know what the issue was. I don't know why he didn't like me. It's got nothing to do with you personally. You just weren't as good as you once were. And also, you play it all the time. He played 77, 78 games. Yeah. He started every game. I thought that was unfair of Russell Westbrook to say he had an issue with me. I don't think he had an issue with you. They were just trying to figure out how you can best be effective because you're just not as good as you once were.
Yeah, I think he's delusional, and he should take some blame there when he said, you know, I wasn't able to be myself. Well, you got more opportunities than anybody on that roster to play. And, is being yourself, missing jumpers, turnovers, all of those things, and they probably are stuck with him. If LeBron likes Russell Westbrook, does he only like him for 1 year, or is he going to like him for 2 years?
Yeah, and the one thing that Westbrook has going for them, I should say the Lakers have going for him, he does have an expiring contract, which could potentially make him easier to trade. I know Mark Stein had a story out there about potentially maybe the Charlotte Hornets with Gordon Hayward's contract. We know that Jordan and Russell Westbrook do have a relationship. So if you're getting him on just for 1 year, you could kind of make that work. But I think for Westbrook also, what probably frustrated him, I think and this happens to a lot of guys when native New Yorkers who play in New York, they all think it's going to be a storybook type of Hollywood ending. And a lot of times it doesn't work out like that. He goes to LA. It's the worst experience of his career, Dan. He's getting booed for the first time. He's not playing well. He's on one of the worst teams that he's ever played for. And he took a lot of the blame, which was a little over the top as well, because we're going to criticize guys for not playing. At least Russell Westbrook didn't bail out on the team and say, I got a sore knee. I can't play in the games. but it just wasn't good enough. And the star players, you want to hold them to a high standard, and he just didn't meet that standard.
Yeah, I've always said that about Westbrook. He plays hard. Sometimes his mind and his body aren't synced up, and then you have some bad moments there. Also, if you look at this job, how desirable coaching the Lakers is now with AD, Westbrook, LeBron going into season 20. You got to deal with the front office here. How enticing is this job? Are you going to get top-end people? And would you at least place a call to Phil Jackson?
I'm sure Jeannie Buss already has. I had heard that trying to get guys on a 2-year deal, which kind of lines up with LeBron. So maybe when LeBron is done, they would probably go in a different direction. There's only 30 of those jobs. It is the Lakers. But to your point, I looked it up today. They've only won over 37 games 3 times in 10 years. So it really has been kind of a dysfunctional losing situation. The one outlier was the year they went to the bubble and they won the kind of summer league bubble championship with LeBron James. Otherwise, it really has, it's been a poor organization the last 10 years. And that's the thing. You could blame as many coaches as you want. You also have to look at the front office and ownership. And no offense to Jeannie Buss, it really hasn't worked out the last 10 years. I get it. You did get the one championship. But for the most part, it's been a losing situation, and there's been a lot of dysfunction there.
Yeah, when you haven't made the playoffs in 7 of the last 9 years, this isn't on Frank Vogel or Russell Westbrook. Right. It's on something a little bit larger, more systemic. We're talking to Frank Isola. He, of course, is around the Nets, and you're the Nets studio host. Ben Simmons, any chance as the Nets progress in the playoffs that he could play?
I guess I don't know what can you realistically expect from him. And the last time we saw him playing a game that was June 20th, and that was, the last game with Philadelphia, couldn't make free throws. He was 15 of 45 from the free throw line in that series. So now, after not playing with the Australian national team, not playing any preseason games, regular season game, play-in tournament game, you might miss games 1 and 2 of this series. You're just going to walk into a playoff series in high pressure situations. Is he going to be in the game in the fourth quarter? And what's going to happen when they're in the penalty? If you're Ime Udoka, if it's the Celtics that he does play against, how do you not foul the guy? Send him to the free throw line. That's been a big thing. His confidence, the last time we saw him play, his confidence was shot. And there was a story out there somewhere where somebody said, oh, his confidence is sky high. How would we know that? How are you gauging that? He hasn't played a basketball game since last June 20th. And the last time we saw him play, he wouldn't shoot. And when he was at the free throw line, he couldn't make a free throw.
And I wonder about this, that in other sports, baseball, you've had guys who can't throw the ball back to the pitcher. You've had pitchers who can't throw the ball over the plate. You have Steve Sachs or Chuck Knobloch who can't throw it from second to first. We look at that and we go, okay, golfers. Kevin Na would get at the top of his swing and he didn't know how to get back down to the ball. Yips, guys who were putting. Now, we don't factor that in with basketball players, that they get to the free throw line and they freeze up. They don't know how to do something. It feels like that's been left unexplored, whereas we've seen a lot more instances, or at least we've unearthed those in golf and baseball. Why is that?
No, I think that's a great call. And I also think how many times have we seen guys, they'll show them in warm-ups or they'll show them on the practice court and they're knocking down free throws. Giannis was like that, if you remember, last year. And then, of course, he figured his whole situation out during the playoffs, which was pretty extraordinary, the way that he did that. But I think that's a very fair point. I think maybe you feel isolated out there at the free throw line. And to your point, you kind of get the yips and you cannot make free throws. And Shaq was a guy that was a poor free throw shooter. I remember the day that he got, when it was announced he was going to the Hall of Fame, and they asked him about free throw shooting and about shooting underhand. He said, I'd rather miss all of them than shoot them underhand. But he also used to bring up the point, they didn't really lose big games because he missed free throws. But you could kind of relate a lot of the free throws that Ben Simmons missed last year against Atlanta to them blowing that game, game 5 where they had the big lead, and then obviously game 7 when they had a big lead.
Mason Plumlee is right-handed. He's shooting free throws left-handed. Yeah. If you go from right-handed to left-handed, Frank, go all the way to underhand.
I agree.
Right? You have a better chance of making underhand free throws. And you can't say, well, I don't want to be embarrassed. No, you're already embarrassed. You make less than 40% of your free throws.
Yeah. Well, what you need to do is, why don't you get Rick Barry on, and all you have to do is ask him about it, and then sit back, and he'll go on for about 15, 20 minutes, and he's going to tell you how he would solve it.
Oh, I know.
How he's going to solve everything. I mean, Rick Barry's a piece of work. You know how long he'll go on for, but there is something to be said for that. And it's also a vanity thing. I don't want to be the guy that everyone's making fun of shooting free throws, but yet
nobody makes fun of you if you make them, Frank.
I agree. I don't get it. And it's and you're losing games because of it. That's the thing that gets you.
I was surprised with the Nets and the Cavaliers that you had a near perfect game by Kyrie and a unbelievable game with Durant, but you had to hold on against the Cavaliers at home. How does that bode for them playing against the Celtics?
Yeah, and the big thing with Steve Nash, two-time MVP, great offensive player. When he played for Phoenix, all everybody talked about was offense, never defense. All Steve talks about with the Nets is defense, how they need to get better. One of their last games of the season, they played the Houston Rockets. They gave up a ton of points. Their final game against Indiana, where you would have needed, a scorebook to figure out who these guys were, they put up 126 on the Brooklyn Nets. Defense is an issue with them. Now, Cleveland did cut it. I think it was either 5 or 6. It was never a one-possession game of the final 3 quarters, but they had a 22-point lead. Yeah. And Cleveland got back into it. It's an issue. And if Cleveland had Jarrett Allen, that could have been a much different story. The Nets very easily could be playing tomorrow night just to get into the playoffs. Offensively, there's nothing to worry about with the Nets. Kevin Durant is at a different level. He makes the right play every single time. Both he and Kyrie were double-digit assists. They combined for 23 assists in that game. You don't have to worry about that team offensively. The big thing is going to be defense, which we were just talking about Ben Simmons offensively. He would help them defensively.
Great to talk to you. As always, thank you, Frank.
Good seeing you, Dan. Take care.
That's Frank Isola. Commissioner Silver will be on the program tomorrow. I got a question for the commissioner tomorrow.
I would hope.
Well, no, I got one question that nobody is thinking about right now. You know what? Let me bring back Frank here. Frank, I have one question here for the commissioner. I got a few questions about, load management, but I'm going to ask you. You play the role of Commissioner Silver.
Good.
Why is it we allow players to carry the ball? Is there an infraction of carrying the ball? Can that be called in today's NBA? Why do we allow that when, Iverson and Stockton, we would call carrying on them?
And I think early in the season, it does get called. And then it seems like as the season goes on, they call it less and less. And every once in a while, out of nowhere, it comes out. Ask them this. What if we changed, if to win postseason awards, you had to play in a minimum amount of games? Ooh. Whether it's 68 or 70. And how about this too? Scoring title, all that stuff. Make it total. No one talks about who led the NFL in average touchdown passes per game. It's total. So Trae Young led the league in total points, total assists. Maybe guys on a second out of a back-to-back would just play the second half. It's not going to affect your average, but it'll help your totals. Let's go to totals since guys are playing high 50s, low 60s.
Well, also, you could put a minimum to make the first and second and third team All-NBA.
And money factors into that now with All-NBA. So make it, I agree. Put that on there. So incentivize the players to play in more of the games.
And also, no positions. Give me the 5 best players on first team, 5 best players, 5 best players. Rudy Gobert, good player, not one of the top 15 players in the NBA.
Yeah.
And then they benefit. How many great centers have there been? Now, maybe a few more now, but I just think 5 best players. It might be 5 guards, but they're 5 best players.
And remember when that first came up and a bunch of the centers said, well, that's not fair because now nobody's going to vote a center. Well, the guys that are probably going to finish 1, 2, and 3 in the MVP vote this year are Embiid, Nikola Jokic, Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Yeah.
All big men. Giannis more of a 4 or 5, but to your point, there are going to be some years where the 5 best players are guards, some years where they're small forwards. This year, 3 of the best players in the league are all big men.
Thank you, Frank. And thanks for playing the role of Commissioner. Commissioner Silver.